Okay, so this video is about connecting to the high level auth. And first of all, you need to go to this website and it's marketplace.gohighlevel.com. And if you have not signed up, you'll sign up with your agency. Believe it's your agency account, as this is not available to sub accounts. Check. I could be wrong. So let's sign in. And I will sign in with my information and I'll create a brand new app and call it test. See, we'll close up more. So we are connecting Xano and go high level. And then of course, you can name it whatever you want. So first, we'll need to add the scopes. You can give it all these options, but we'll just start with a few campaign. No. Campaign, but read, write, workflows, user, message. Okay, so we'll do that. And messages, right. So these two relates to being able for your Go High Level app to send and receive messages. The redirect is going to be the page that you want Go High Level to send people back. And my redirect is going to be live. Okay. Live.otherwise.die. So save and save. Okay. So read, write, conversation, save. Wonderful. So now going to generate live client keys, and we can call this something descriptive. So now it's going to be Xano. Okay, so we need to copy the client ID and then the client secret. Of course, this will all be deleted. Okay. And this is the webhook URL. We'll use this a little bit later. In Xano, we'll create a webhook, and high level will send any other related webhook events to our API. And here, if I click here, okay, they move stuff around. So here are the scopes, the API endpoints, and the webhook events, where we put our webhook here, endpoint, anything, every time something happens, high level will send it to us. Okay, so now, this is if you don't want to use either high level, which relies on Twilio or Twilio directly, you can use a different provider to send and receive messages. Okay, so now that we've done that, we can begin to get the auth2 get access API endpoint. So right now, the client ID we need to enter, then the secret. So the grant time, first we need to get the authorization code. Okay. So here is the event. So we don't have an authorization code. So we have to go get one and see if there we go. So this is the URL that's going to give us the authorization code. Okay. So the response type is code. We're going to leave that. The redirect is what we entered right here. So that is going to be the redirect here. The client ID is right here. And then this is what we've authorized in the scopes, message read only and message. So now we copy this, go to URL, go location, let's see what is wrong with our URL. Okay, there's spaces for human readability. So there's that. Make sure all the spaces are none. Okay. And this is the sub account that I'm testing it on. Client. Okay, so these errors are good because they show you how to solve the issues. So let's go to conversion. Invalid client redirect URL does not match client's valid. Okay, so just check everything's good. Okay, marketplace response. code redirect URL. Let's say TP. No, it's just HTTP. And let's try that. Copy. Oh yeah, not enter. So we'll do it again. Same redirect HTTP to the demo side. Yes. So that's so the code is right here. It's in the URL after code equals. So that's our code. Just word. Okay. So that is the code. Okay. Now we're getting the code. Okay. Now this code will change every single time. So now let's go to, if I were to run this again, this process, it'll give me a new code. And then, so I have automated this process to be able to get access tokens and refresh tokens, all of this. So now that we have the code, and so yes, so let me, right now I want to, what do you call it? I'm trying to think of many different ways that we could do this. I could enter the info here, do a send API request. It'll give me the request sample and the response sample. However, then manually they'll have to save that to a database in Xano. So instead, we're going to do is get into Xano. So Xano, so I'm gonna create a new API group here and just call it HighLevel Xano API demo. Let me just make sure there's not already, no, there isn't. So I will create a demo group. Save. So once this is created, do a scratch API, and I'm going to, so what we're doing is we're exchanging high level color access, both like refresh and access token initially. And this is a post call. Okay, so just saying, and yes. So from here, this is the GHL OAuth2 API documentation. So I said what I'm going to do is I'm going to manually construct this. So I'm going to just take this fake data that's here, and what I'll show you what's really cool. So here in the function stack, I'm going to create an external API request and just paste. So the sample request and import. Now here, everything, we don't need to change anything, okay? It fills this as host, right? Now the client ID, let's make that into like variables inside of Go HighLevel. Even though this is for demo, it's still a good practice. So say, and then as you can see a lot already. So I'll just do demo and then client ID, and one as and I think I'll do demo app because GHL app. Okay, so save, go back to our API. So now what I'm going to do is in the value right here, choose environmental value and demo GHL client ID, update, and then in the client secret, same thing. This is the environmental variable that we created. So the authorization, grant type authorization code would come here. Now the refresh token, we don't need because we don't have it yet. So we could, let's see, refresh token, value, no, might give us an error. And what's really nice about Xano is that it already fills out the information that we got from the current command. We just have to, customize it to our need. Yeah, and then give it a nice name is also good. And so this will be and we'll return that variable. Okay, so now what I haven't done is save this in a database because later on when we want to give a new access token, once it either expires or we force it to expire by requesting a new access token, this is a good idea. Before we can request from the database, we need to create a database. And then click here, I'm holding the control, click, So that way I can open it up in a new tab. So here I'm going to add a table and it's going to be called Demo GHL App Database. Okay. It's part of the, we want to make it part of this. Let's see. Do I want, no. So this is a cool feature. So like to this database, you can like Xano automatically creates the CRUD endpoint API endpoints. But for now, for this, I'm going to not do this because then what we'll do is we'll create endpoints as we need them. So add table. Okay. Now I know what's going to be returned when we run this. However, I'll show you. Imagine if you did it right. So you enter all that information. Here you can lock it down so that uses the user authentication database information to authenticate you, and we'll save this. So now that we have this, let's go check out the database and see if anything got populated. Cool. Okay. Nice. So I got the access token location type. The user type is location. Go. So now we're going to use a refresh token to get a new access token. To change the code to get the refresh token access and other useful information that we have then posted here in a database that we can then retrieve a refresh token to get a new access token. All right. So now once we do this, ideally you do it once and then you get the information posted here and then you use the refresh token for future interactions with GHL. So here is the refresh token. And essentially what it does is we're querying the app database, which is right here. We're getting everything. Now, ideally, this is not the most efficient way. We want to get like the last record because that will have the most active, not the most, but the active refresh access token. So we get that, and we drill down into it, and then the refresh token, we pop it off and return it. And with that refresh token, then under, as you mentioned, as you said, we use the client IDs, client secret, and then this on the green type is refresh token and then we need the refresh token last refresh. And in fact, we don't need this for this function because just don't need it. So I'm going to hit save. And when we run this, so it actually gives us the refresh token, a refresh token that then we can use to get access. Okay. So what I've done, so with this, because we're going to be using this over and over, I've converted it into a function. And then first you want to clone it. And if that clone, you want to convert it into a function, which I've done already right here. GHL refresh access token function. And essentially, if I told that code into this one line, so that way we can insert it where we want. And it does the same thing, query all records from the app GHL app database, creates a variable, the last refresh token, and then it uses that to make a call to the API endpoint auth token right here. That then gives us new access token and refresh token that we're then posting back into the database. All right, so once we have, so right now, this is returning. So the function is returning the refresh token. So I actually don't want it to return the refresh token because we will need the access token to interact with Dialogflow or to interact with GoHello this situation. Okay. So result, okay, so that gets us that. And then right here, going to that, click save. So now this is going to give us everything, the entire row. And then whenever we use that, we just need to make sure to put dot access token. Okay, so this now gives us, let's go back to our function around here. What we do is just give the Google access token, then the HighLevel refresh token, and then we're going to create some variables like location ID, session ID that we will need to synchronize communication between Dialogflow and HighLevel. And this is some logic that essentially said if Dialogflow does not return a response based on user's input right here, then it needs to look to see if there's a match intent, find out what the match intent type is. And if it's no match or the match intent of the current page right here. So let's look into is null or I contain start, and where match intent equals no match intent, then essentially we're going to send this static message back to the user and you can have it say whenever you want. However, if these conditions don't be true, then Dialogflow has this option where you can use the fulfillment, right, based on the match intent, and then respond with that. So here we're just hitting, this is the API in a Dialogflow. If I come in here, these are variables that we are using, and the session ID, you need to set it the region, the agent, Dialogflow agent, and then the project ID. So once we have that, then yes. So now, these are the parameters based on the time zone right here, and then the session. So it needs to know session, which is the session ID that we are using. So I guess I just noticed repeating the session ID twice, but that shouldn't matter because it's so this is the path session ID and the time zone. So this is the query input, what match intent result. That is what it thinks based on the match intent, and then the fulfillment response right here that it's going to present that to Dialogflow. And again, so here is in the header, we're going to pass the access token from Google. And then once that's done, then based on what Dialogflow returns back to us in fulfillment, then we dig into and go into response result, query results, and we get response message, and it defaults empty array. We flatten that response array, and then here's a wait time like 3.2 seconds. So if there's two messages, distinct messages, it'll send one, wait 3 seconds, and send the other message in the array. However, if Dialogflow does have something to say, then what happens is it skips all of that because it doesn't need it. And it just sends that message back to go high level right here. So the message item, so get response, flatten as item. So it just sends each message back to go high level. And then that message in turn is sent from go high level to the moving forward, right here, we want to be able to catch the parameters from Dialogflow, which are year, make, model, number of doors, car features, the auto glass that's needed. And why we need this is for the prediction model to be able to use that information and send a quote price back to the user. Now, ideally, this function, this logic should have gone into its own function. And what I'm about to release, it works, but a lot of improvement is needed in almost every aspect. The Dialogflow agent itself that we haven't looked at yet, it's okay. That's why it's in beta. It works 90+% of the time, but you have to improve it, work on it, and make it better. Good. The logic here is saying if the car feature new is an array, sure, then just save it as array car feature new. Now, if it's not an array, but if it is an array, then also we want to convert that array into a string, and you do this by join here. However, if it's not an array, we're going to convert it into an array by using a split separator, and then of course take that array and convert it back into a string. The reason that we're doing this is because the service predibot that it gives us the number based upon the year, make, model, number of doors, auto glass that's needed, requires a string format. But while we're pasting this information into a database, we've set it up to take an array. And also go high level, the options that we're using, the custom fields, it requires an array. So that is why that is structured. Again, we're using some condition logic that we're testing to make sure is ready for carrybot that we need to send. Here are the other glass, the year, the make, model, number of doors, the car features into. So once we send this information, then we get an amount and we take that amount and then we use the API for Go High Level to send the value, the amount. So right here is the custom fields, and the ID for those custom fields is, so this ID is year, this here is make. So these are static, like the ID, because they don't change. But the make, the model, the number of doors, and the glass service that's needed, and the car features, these are dynamic. And what's going to happen is, of course, your account will have different values for each custom field that you create. What this particular API call does is it then, and right here, the amount from, so we send that, we save it into a field called cost, and then we also add a tag to the customer gift quote, which then triggers a workflow that essentially says, hey, hi, or you're like, if it lists your car information, the glass, the amount is this. And of course, there's some language that essentially says, hey, this is not accurate based on machine learning. And would you like to make an appointment? Okay. So that, that is what it does. It allows a customer through their SMS to communicate with like your contact, your lead, to try to collect information regarding Hourglass and then attempt to book. But there are other webhooks that are involved. On the next video that I'm going to do is go into Dialogflow CX agent and show you like the webhooks that we are using for us. So if someone says yes, they want an appointment. Yeah. So that is a different webhooks and different flows that happens to make that happen. And so far we have set up another code, use that code to get a refresh access token, use that initial refresh token to set up another function to continuously use the previous refresh token to generate new access token, refresh token that are then pasted back into the database to be used again for the next call. Okay. It's not really that complicated, and I'm just listening to myself, and I'm making it more complicated than I think. And the reason that is because I have a lot of learning to do. And that is when so my understanding is, and I believe this, if someone is not really fluent, not really well versed in the subject, and they try to teach and explain others, they make something very simple to be very complicated. So apologies for that, but it's not